Hi everyone, welcome to the ABU Leadership Lunchtime Series, and we have with us today the wonderful Paula Barnard Groves. So Paula, welcome. It's wonderful to have you with us. So pleased that you could make it today. So Paula, I'll just quickly introduce you. So you're an amazing artist, a sculptor, and you have been creating indoor and outdoor sustainable steel sculptures. Gosh, that's a tongue twister. For over 3 decades, and you've been in remarkable places with your sculptures. But you now have this amazing project called Me Infinity, which is all about climate change, one's best self. And your talk today is called Climate Change, What Can Be Done About It, which is an incredibly important and exciting project that you've been working on. Your book is going to come out soon, and so this is one of the first times you're going to have been talking publicly about it. Paula, welcome, and
thank you.
It's great to have you here. Now, are we going to go to your slides now?
Shortly. So thank you for having me, Lucy, and thank you everyone who's joining today and is going to be watching again on the replay. Really appreciate your time, and there have been a few technical issues here today, so my screen isn't sharing, so I've sent my presentation through to Lucy, so she won't be able to jump on board and see the chats quite as readily as normal. And it's changed the font, and I'm not sure exactly what it's done until. So we're winging it just a little bit. So yes, Lucy, if you're happy to share this.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paula's going to have to tell me when to change slides as well. So but the slides are looking great, I can tell you, because I'm seeing them now. So here we go. Sharing my screen with everybody, and let me go to slideshow. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that.
Brilliant. Okay, so I've been a sustainable steel sculptor for over 30 years, and at the start of COVID, 3 really key things happened, and I have been working on this project since then. So as Lucy said, this is the first time I'm sharing it. I've been very much in what I call deep monk mode for the whole time. And I must admit, I'm kind of nervous to be speaking about this because it's been quite an intense and solo project, though I'm in a mastermind group with a team of people and Lucy. So I have been sharing this, but this is a big one for me. So as I was working on this project, the question did come up as to, well, what one thing can I do today? And in actual fact, the better question is what needs to happen. So that's what I'm going to be running through with you today. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Lucy. So there were 3 key elements that happened, as I said, at the start of 2020. And I thought, could this year get any worse? And this was February 2020. So there was there's a catastrophic Australian fire. There was this quote, and you can see the event that it was spoken in the picture there. It was shown by a friend of Facebook, and this is a quote by Sir David Attenborough. And then I went to a climate change conference that told me a lot more information. Those three things coalesced and then transformed into this project, which showed me different openings and opportunities that I'd never previously conceived of. So if I just give you a little bit of background about myself first, so that you get a sense of what my background is. So if we can go to the next slide, Lucy. So that's me on the right-hand side of the screen, sitting in a scrap bin last millennium, rooting around the swarf to get out metals that can be used for to make into sculptures. Sorry, and you can see the screen, the slides are a bit messed up because it's a different format, so apologies for that. So in the very early stages, I was making very raw and rough materials. On the left, you can see a candle holder there, very chunky, very lumpy, and that's the sort of thing I'd make. And then if you move to the next slide, Luce. And then on the left, you can see Sid, who was my assistant, looking at some scrap materials that were used from this was actually the Thomas Deacon Academy in Peterborough, which is a Foster and Partners building. It was the largest academy in Europe, I believe, at the time. So I'd go and see the materials that were there. This was from a roof mock-up that wasn't too dissimilar to what they did in the King's Cross station. And then you can see the maquette, the smaller version of the piece. And this is actually for a Science and Art Academy. And it's looking at the concept of the prism and the colours, the 7 colours shooting through it. It's a little bit hard to see possibly, but it's got 7 strands that link through the prism. And then you can see Andy, who was my main guy for installs, that's installing the piece. So I did very large scale pieces, and then go to the next slide. This was when I did Chelsea Flower Show, and Alan Titchmarsh came to the stand and he bought one of my pieces. He bought the one that's on the right, that was called Core. And then the one on the left is called Lodestar, and that piece was all scrap materials. I generally work with scrap materials, and my signature elements would be the sphere, the triangle and the square. And when something I've worked in the industry, and when something got out of sequence, that was a punching sequence for an extractor for an industrial kitchen canopy. The sequence went out and it's then scrapped for them, but the beauty of that piece still remains. And I would just look at the things that weren't going to be used, and I would then use them myself and create what I thought were these beautiful sculptures. So that's a little bit of my background, and I did welding jobs in between that, and it was proven to be pretty tough because I wasn't so business minded. But my work sold worldwide, and I had all the prestige other than the financial success. So then I started doing some training, which has elevated me to a new level of perception and how I deal with things and see things. But then COVID came along, and that, from the exhibition that I was doing at that point, what then happened was everything shut down. So my conversations with the National Theatre, my conversations with new projects stopped. But this seed of an idea was still within me. So if you go to the next slide, Lucy. So I've just realised I'm looking at a different screen here. Okay, this is the quote again from Sir David Attenborough. And in just 26 words, he in actual fact summed up what we needed to do. So when this joined up with the other ideas, it gave me an understanding of what potentially we could do. And initially it was just an art project, but then because everything got shut down, I dug deeper and deeper and deeper into this. And then it revealed more and more fascinating insights of ways to then move forward. So because I break things down and analyze things, if you can just go to the next slide, Lucy, if we break that quote down, in actual fact, Sir David Attenborough is saying the only one thing that we need to do is to learn. Then he's saying the things that we don't need to do. And then so he's spelling out the things we don't need to do. So if we must learn, and the pieces that we must change are, we've essentially got to do the 180 of that. So if the one thing we need to do is learn, then what do we need to learn? We need to learn to do the opposite of the things that we're not doing. So we need to look at greed, and we need to look at waste. And he specifically pointed out power, food, space, and time. So if we go to the next screen, please, Lucy. So as I said, this is flipping a 180 on how we're currently doing things. So I've then, how do I move forward? How do I explore this? And I then was seeking mentors. I actually got to have I got coaches to help me and support me. I got a health and wellness coach, Serena and Eugene, for working out and working on my fitness. And then I also got a business coach, because this really seemed quite profound and an important thing that I needed to be pursuing. So I then was exploring avenues as to who else would be key mentors for this project. And the key mentors that I've lent into for this are Sir David Attenborough with his quote. Then there was a poem during the climate change conference by a poet called Laurie Ogden, which was so compelling that I wanted to read it today to you now. But it upsets me so much because it's so beautiful, and it paints a picture of a future that we could be in if we do nothing. And that was the thing that compelled me, is the thought of what happens if we do nothing and we don't change. And then the idea struck me that if we could have done some little tiny incremental changes before COVID happened that could have created a different outcome, I'm sure that we'd have all wanted to have done that. So I looked up, as I say, different mentors, and I found Sir Ken Robinson and also Jill Balty-Taylor. So Sir Ken Robinson is a educationalist, and Jill Balty-Taylor is a neuroanatomist. And in both of their TED Talks, which are fantastic, and chances are you've seen them because they're two of the most impactful TED Talks, Sir Ken Robinson speaks about the problems that we have with the education system, not functioning at optimum for every strand of society, and how a lot of children want to move and express themselves, and being sat at a desk isn't necessarily the best thing. And then Jill Balty-Taylor in her TED Talk, called My Stroke of Insight, she speaks about the left and the right brain, because she experienced that when she had a stroke and it witnessed that her brain shutting down as a neuroanatomist, and how the left side of the brain for speech stopped, and then she was in the right side of the brain. And she said in her TED Talk that she experienced nirvana, and she went through a huge healing process that took 6 or 7 years before she was restored to her former health. But she wanted to be able to share the fact that we can go to a different place by changing our mind, literally changing our mind. And that really inspired me. And she said, and this is a thread that runs through the project, she said, we are feeling creatures that think. Now that, for me, was a 180 perception on how we look at things. So if you go to the next slide, please, Lucy. So if we are in this position where we need to learn and we need to shift and change, then it suggests to me that not necessarily we have a system error, but we need to have a system reset, update, and upgrade. And James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, says that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So for me, that suggested that we then needed to update our systems. So then how do we go about that? So next slide, please, Lucy. That's not what it looks like on my screen. That's a very different image. So these this is the blue and the red pill from The Matrix. And if you're familiar with the film, there's the current paradigm that we're already living in, which is the blue pill, and then there is the red pill. And what I then started to do was reduce the palette that I was working with and worked with these two colors, so that the blue was how we used to do things, and the red was how we can now do things. So we can actually, as Jill Balty Taylor said, we can choose moment by moment how we turn up. So this is the thing where we can pause and we can then make a choice. And if the way that we're doing things doesn't serve us, then we can make a different choice. So if we go to the next slide. So this is what I then call the magenta matrix. Because if you bring the two colors together, we can then live in the middle ground, which is the purple piece. Initially, I spent a long time thinking it's right brain, it's right brain, it's right brain, but in actual fact, it is both. And we need to create that beautiful balance between both sides of our mind. But in actual fact, because of how we've moved through the system, essentially since the Industrial Revolution, we've had much more of a focus on the left brain. And myself as an artist found that it was really, really tough and really difficult to engage with my studies and with different things, because it was a different modality. So what the magenta matrix is, it's a 3-step program, and you've got the red act, so you're focusing on the another point of view. You've got and that's playing, that's bringing in that childlike wonder of seeing the world and having fun and playing. Then you've got the blueprint, so that's the plan of what we do, but life can move and life can change. And then we've got the black hole, so that's everything. So you bring everything together and you've got all these choices, and we're not limiting ourselves by the way that we're looking at things. So if we go to the next slide, please, Lucy. So in the book, The One Thing, by Gary Keller and Jay Papasana, the one really good thing in the book, it says, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary? And that was the compelling piece for me. What is the one thing that we need to do? Now, the difficulty here is that one thing is often the thing that we don't see and that we isn't in our peripheral vision, and in actual fact can fall in our blind spots. So go to the next screen, please, Lucy. So I called this project 3 Elements and a Journey, because it was inspired by the 3 elements, which was the earth, wind and fire, which was Sir David Attenborough, the poem, and the Australian fire. And then those are 3 steps. There's the macro, the micro, the nano. There's the be, the we, and the me. And then we know, sow, and grow. And this is nature, nurture, and neutral. All of these coexist at the same time, but we can choose which one we want to step into at any one moment in time. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Lucy. Oh, I skipped one. So this is the hidden piece. This is then the 4th element, which I didn't really discover and realize that how embedded the 4th element was. This is the invisible piece. Earth, wind, fire, and water. All of these coexist. So we've got the micro, the macro, the nano, and the now. This is the decision. This is mindfulness. This is the decision you make at any given moment in time. So we go from the be to the we to the me to the free. So we've entered that place, and that's then where you get flow. And you can then be working in flow, and then you're working naturally, because a problem that we've been having in society is the fact that we are naturally adaptive, and we have adapted to work to what Gabor Mate says is like a toxic culture. And so our responses to that, we're having natural responses to an unnatural environment. If we tune into ourselves and what our body's saying us, we can slip into flow, and then life changes and transforms. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Lucy. So I haven't got the poem to share with you today, but I will be sharing that in the not too distant future. As I said, Laurie, this was the end of a climate change conference, and I heard all of the horrific things that will be happening in 10 years' time if we do nothing. Speaking about COP26, with COVID, that got knocked down another year, and then Laurie came and read 2 poems, and this was one of those poems. As I said, she spelt out a picture of how it would look for us and our children if we do nothing. And at the very end of it, and the second from last line, she says, I did not act, I did not change, I don't know why. And that's the piece in 10 years' time when we're reflecting on now, and that we could have actually done something right now. So now, in actual fact, is the first and only time in history where all of us can do this. We can reach out to other people and help, that we've got technology that can transform our world, transform our minds, transform our thinking, and that we can all use that and utilize that. So it's leveled the playing field. Since I've been working on this project, AI has stepped up. And what I'm speaking about here are actions that we take to change our mind, to stop the negative self-talk in our head, to take control of our minds, and that we are the ones in charge. And it has such a profound difference. And we all can do this. And if AI is coming in to support us, it makes sense for us to become as optimal as we possibly can be. So if we go to the next slide, please, Lucy. So I call this process Equipoise 3. It's about the 3 parts of ourselves, the be, the we, and the me. That's the 3 parts that are involved in every part of our decision making. It's the mind, the body, and the soul. And the body gives us our sensory responses to the environment, and we can change to suit. We are born to evolve, and we are born to grow. So this is about balancing and restoring ourselves to homeostasis as quickly as possible. I call it Equipoise 3 because there's this theme that I found tends to run through our life, because we're getting these whispers. We don't always hear them, but we can tune into them. And I've realized through doing the project that the names that I was giving to my sculptures link to this project. So this was the sculpture in this picture here was one of the first. It looks bigger than it is because I've lie on the ground to take photographs, but it was the first larger scale sculpture and a fabricated piece that I've ever made, and I called it Equipoise 3. So it links so beautifully to the project. So if we go to the next slide. So this is just a flavour of my the first act in the book, which is A, and it's the first, which is our first nature. So it's being natural, being true to ourselves, and it's to bring our A game. If we bring our A game, then that is alchemy, that is transformation. That is how we can change the world in which we live. So of the breakdown of balancing, I've got the B, the A, and the L in these chapters. And the B is BS, and that is our belief system. And if we can update our belief system on a day-by-day basis, little bit, tiny changes, it is transformative. So it goes from the macro to the micro to the nano. We go in as the book progresses. So we've got planet, people, profit. And that's the way that things move down. But what I'm suggesting with this book, and if you can possibly imagine this piece, is that in terms of profit, that is currently our main focus for things. But in actual fact, I believe we're looking at the wrong profit. We are the profits. And if we work on ourselves, then the profit will flow. And that's what I'm excited about. And that's what I want us to get on board and do as a community, as a group, and all be supporting each other. So if you could go to the next slide, please, Lucy. So in terms of what Sir David Attenborough says is we must learn, what I discovered from looking at science, at research about neuroanatomy, is when I saw Dr. Chatterjee do his TED talk, he spoke of that the genes load the gun, but the environment pulls the trigger. Not wildly keen on that quote, but he used it very impassioned in his first TED talk. And that made me realize that we do actually have control. And I believe the casting vote goes to epigenetics. So we can transform, otherwise we can't adapt in any particular situation. The difficulty is when how we work and how we think and how we operate is in our earlier years, between 1 to 7, we are taught the principles and the ways that we operate, which is fine if we agree completely with all of those. But those are the things that are on autopilot and that we respond to. So we might have different thoughts, but then we wonder, why do I keep slipping back into my old ways? And that is because we've got 95% of our programming on a daily basis was programmed by other people, and they might have had our best intentions, but they weren't us and they didn't know us. We have only got 5% of the say in anything, but that is incredibly powerful, and we can use that, and then we can update, upgrade, and reset our systems. So if we go to the next slide, please, Lucy. So one of the ways that I speak of with doing this is I call WINS, and it's words, images, numbers, and senses. So initially, for quite a long time, I just had it as WIN. And then I realized with Jill Balti-Taylor saying we're feeling creatures that think, what I realized was that our senses are informing our communication. And what is really important is if we can all improve our communication and speak better and say better words. I don't know about you, but the little voice in my head is seldom praising me, telling me how brilliant I am, supporting me, encouraging me. The little voice in my head at the start of this was really, really giving me a lot of hassle. And so by understanding our senses and our responses, we can hear when things are falling out of line. Now, what I really believe to be so about these elements is that there's a spectrum that we sit on. We're more left brain or we're more right brain, but we obviously use them both. But the thing that makes the difference is we all have a preference. And I believe we need to lean into those preferences, and we need to really become, it's our superpower. And we can, if words come up, we can crowd them out with better words. We can change how we do things, and we can do that. And we have the power and capacity to do that. And it changes how we live. And I've been experimenting with and playing with this actually before this project even started. So if we go to the next screen, Lucy. So if we look at words, and there's a film Apocalypse Now, and there's a scene of Marlon Brando in the film where he says, if is the middle word in life. And that really stayed with me, and that really stuck with me. And I just thought, wow, that's so key. But then I thought, then I'm looking at the belief and belief systems, and that's what steers our life. And what I thought was, well, lie is in the middle of belief. And so it's up to us as to which way we can, if we go 180, the other option could be so too. And Rick Rubin, when he was speaking about his book, The Creative Act, said our beliefs don't need to be true. And I believe that our, a lot of beliefs going on here, that our belief system is our filter for the world, because it shuts out all the other things. So we can't see everything because it's too chaotic. So we have to shut that down. So we use our belief systems for that, but we can take charge of our belief systems and we can look at things in a different way. Can you go to the next screen, please, Lucy? I believe our beliefs are our superpower. We can use those for our benefit. And if we open up our perspective from a different point of view, then we can see things differently. So my wife's South African, and in Afrikaans, liefie means love. So it depends on if you're looking at belief as the main word being lie, or if you look at it a different way and then you see be love. And I have been leaning into the other way of seeing belief. Love is the key to all of this. So if we go to the next slide, please, Lucy. So we can change moment by moment, Jill Balti-Taylor said. And I have been doing that and working on that over 3.5 years, and it is transformative. At the start of this, I got a small group of people and I did a 90-day challenge. I did a 90-day, 60-day, 30-day and 21-day, got more people involved as that went. And what I found was Damien, who joined me, it was his birthday yesterday. Hi, Damon's on the replay. Damien joined me on 21 days. It was on the run up to when the restrictions were being lifted. So everyone was had a bit more time and could do things in a different way. And in 21 days, he transformed his world. I had an on-target tracker to measure things at the start. And from that point, from the 3 weeks later, he almost doubled his score with his sleep, with his food, with his fitness, with his work situation in 3 weeks. And he's one of my best friends. And it's his birthday yesterday. He's retiring this month. And he said it was transformative. And I'm going to be working with Damien in the coming months, because he has seen that just by these little changes and more awareness and understanding and being present makes a huge, huge difference. Go to the next slide, please, Lucy. So this is just doing 1 degree a day. We're saying about doing a 180 shift, and we can sort of pause, take a neutral position, and we can consider the other options, but we only need to do 1 degree a day. One of my 60-day challenges was Juliet, which is another dear friend of mine. And what she said was that she was struggling to commit to committing. And I said to her, just put 1 dot on a piece of paper. And she did that I spoke to her a week later and she said, I failed. I only did 4, I could only do 4 days. And I said, well, you did more than half. So we can start so slow, so slow. Now we're 3 years later and she is in such a happy place now. And all these little tiny actions, it's compounding and it builds up and it changes. So where are we with the slideshow? We got one more slide, Lucy? Or so what I am suggesting is that we can pick the best way for us. We do not have to keep on repeating the cycles and the habits. It does change our perception. We then turn up as a better person. We then are living a better life. And this has a positive impact on the planet and is transformative, because we're more effective with our time. We're more effective with the things we do. Our hearts are open. We're breathing. We're not so stressed. And this is just, sorry, it's a very brief summary of 3.5 years of work, but I want you to feel excited and hope for the future, because we are at the cusp of some huge changes, and we don't need to make change. We need to take charge, and it transforms everything. So I hope that has given you a little bit of a flavour. There was so much to cover, and I hope that was I hope that was clear. So if you've got questions, please do share them. Sorry, I can't hear you, Lucy. As I said, we've had a few technical issues today, so this is another one of those.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, that was amazing, Paula. Thank you so much. I think I've been able to see some of the comments. Cara says, I love your passion and purpose. Madia is saying, changing the way we look at things. If you've got questions now, please do put them in the comments. Melanie says, I love, we don't need to change, we need to take charge. And that's such an important point. Completely agree. Jill Abaro says, I can't wait to read the book now. So yeah, we've got to get that out.
Yes.
But that's yeah, no, I mean, the thing one of the big things I took away from this, Paula, was about our belief system being a filter for the world, and needing to, we need to look on the other side of our own beliefs and see what's happening. I wonder if you can say any more about that.
Well, yes, something popped into my head immediately, because this can be a blind spot. So because we don't know what we don't know, and we're seeing what we're seeing, and we think that's the whole world. So I delivered this a few months ago to my mastermind group that I'm in, and the feedback was, put more of yourself as an artist into it. I must admit, with a tech presentation, it's not quite as there as I want it to be, and I've got a lot more creative stuff to share. But I knew all this, I'm living this, it's a day-by-day growth process. But what I didn't realize was that I had like these limiting beliefs about myself. And when everyone, like these professional, it's a women's group, professional women, all spoke to me, and they said, put more of you into it. Put your creativity into it. And I have been holding back, because as in a society that came up where art isn't revered, where art isn't respected and appreciated and seen and understood, or, oh my gosh, my children want to be artists, I better talk them out of it and get them to do a proper job, then I wasn't seeing the value of my creative practice. And Daniel Priestley, another mentor, says about our mountain of value. And the difficulty about a mountain of value is that you're looking at the other mountains when you're stood on it. You're not seeing your own mountain of value. And so the group I'm in saying to me, put more of yourself in, and then me going away, it then transformed. I realized how much I've been holding back. So our beliefs hold us back in ways that aren't true to our hearts. If we balance, get this equipoise going for 3 parts of ourselves, it is transformative, because then we are living in our true colours. And it has changed my life beyond measure, And it's just to get that artistic license. I want to do things like artistic licenses. You're an artist, do it. Because like Brené Brown speaks about having art scars. So academic people can have art scars for when they were at school and they were shamed for their drawing or their creativity. I believe we've got school scars. So some of our creative souls have had experiences where they've been shamed for not knowing maths or not reading or writing and these sorts of things. And it transforms you if you can just understand that we do have limiting beliefs and that we can change that. We really can. And this is just the start. This is just the start. But please, every day, even just take a moment and breathe. The power of breath changes everything. It really does.
So Paula, Debbie says belief really is our superpower. Do you agree that individually we can act as a whole? Yes. She says, does that make sense? Art 100%. As an expression of belief can be the single drop that ripples out into the world. But yeah, do you agree that individually we can act as a whole?
I do. I mean, I think we're acting as one of the whole, you know. So if we're aligned, if our head and our heart are in alignment, because otherwise we're playing a facade, a role that is someone else, and that can be so challenging because we're not true to our hearts. So if we are true to our hearts, and this is unconditional love, we need to give ourselves. I believe the point in life is to become your best self and to lean into your gift, whatever that might be. And that you can then offer that to the world, because I feel that art is the lost language of love. And if you, like Lucy, you're a wordsmith and words are your thing, but I've been writing a book that was a 90-day challenge that's been over 2 years because I got caught up in the words. Literally got caught up in the words. Like I'm looking at belief and it's like I'm literally in that word, because I cut words out and make them into different shapes. So yes, we are all coming from the one, and if we're all focusing on the other profits, the profit within us, then the other profit flows, and when there's money anxieties, it stops us from connecting to our heart, and it keeps us in a place of fear. So we have the love or the loot are two options, I believe, but they both coexist.
That's wonderful. And as Melanie says, that is just so articulate. Cara's got a couple of comments. Well, one is that she was told at 13 never to do art again, as she wasn't very good, she says. So that's awful.
That's shameful. That is shameful.
It is shameful, isn't it? But she also asked, what are your plans for the next 2 years? So without perhaps taking you down too far apart the path, that would be interesting to know.
If I can just speak into the piece of Cara, I know Cara, and I know how creative and incredible she is. I know how incredible you are, Cara. You're a creative soul. We are all creatives, and our communication is the way we choose to communicate. With all the gadgets and tools, at 13, there was things that I could use for stuff. You know, we can do stuff. It's our imagination, and we need to run freely with that. So I give you artistic license. You are an artist, you are creative, and we all are. And then for the next 2 years, in actual fact, I've got startlingly large plans. I'm finishing the book. I'm wanting to do what I'm calling tool books, which are condensed visual documents that, because I mean, this is one of my book plans. So, and then I've got other one. I've got some more lying around. This is another one of my book plans. So my book has taken on some different forms. So I want to lean into the visual narrative, because a lot of people struggle with reading a book. You buy books, they call it shelf help. You bought a book and you've left it on the shelf. And I was like that. And it's how we find our own way of learning. So I want to be running some challenges. I want to get more people on board. I want to see what is resonating with people, because I've worked on this in a bit of a bubble. So I want to see what people are enjoying and responding to, and then I will run with that. But next year is 2024, and I want to do a 24-hour OUR challenge, because I believe we can evolve in a 24-hour period. This has taken me over 3 years to get clarity, and I've just given you not even 1% of everything that I've covered. I believe we we are born to evolve on a daily basis. And AI is going at such a pace that I want to work with people so that I can, that this is like a movement and people can support each other, because I have had such self-doubt. I've got family members that are giving me a little bit of jip about the amount of time I'm spending on this. And I've got some fabulous family members, and I must thank them and also my beautiful wife for the support. But it's really hard when you're on your own. Like, we go back to a previous question, if we're coming from the one and if we're all got the same vision and purpose, I can't imagine what we can achieve next year by working as a collective to become our best self and live our truest life and do what we were born to do. And Cara, you're an artist, you're a creative, your work is brilliant, it's incredibly creative.
Well, the good news is that Cara says she was told at 13 by the art teacher not to do any more art. She says then at 30, I trained as an interior designer, found out I was genius at colour. So
yes.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
100%. Yeah, I remember she did the interior design, yes.
Yes, and Davina says art comes from the heart and everyone can do this.
Yes,
and that's
yeah, Davina,
so
you're
true.
so right. You're so right. And the difficulty is, and this is what Sir Ken Robinson said in his TED talk, I do recommend it. It's called, Is Creativity, Are Schools Killing Our Creativity? And unfortunately he's passed away now, but his summary book of his career is called Imagine If. And the thing is, there's a lot more to share, because I won't do this now, but we need to be thinking of the future. And a mantra that I was saying at the beginning of this is, my actions today are informed by my future self, not my past, because we need to have a bigger picture of who we're going to go for and who we're going to be. And I have huge plans for next year. So anyone watching this, please join me on social media. I did 400 consecutive lives to get clear on the message. I've been off for over 600 days, a year and a half, to be working on the project. I now need to get partners on board and start to promote this. I want this to go global. It's what you're all doing anyway. This is nothing to do with me. I'm just a conduit, but I really, really want to be there to support people in any way that I can. So. And thank everyone for coming along and watching. And thank you, Lucy. Gosh, those technical difficulties were a bit.
Well, I think we overcame them more or less. Yes. So we saw the slides, even if they weren't quite as good as artistic as you'd intended them to be. But no, Paula, thank you so much. I mean, there have been questions about your book. I happen to know that it's not out yet, it's not quite finished, so we'll need to keep everybody updated about that. Michaela has put links to your social media, I think, in all the in the comments, and she also says, can you please return to the comments when we finish talking and add some of these TED Talk links and the link to the poem as well? That would be absolutely great. So Paula, thank you for an absolutely extraordinary and inspiring talk. It's been an amazing session, and I'm sure people will want to follow you. And it's just been, very special, and I can't wait for the book to come out, and I'm sure other people can't as well. So
I'm really excited about the book, and thank you, everyone. I will be giving out some information about the book before the book comes out, so please follow me on whatever is your favorite social media platform. So thank you, Lucy, thank you, Michaela, and thank you everybody, especially my wife, because she's really been so patient with me, and my aunt Sue, I want to give a mention, and my friend Jonathan, and Damien. There's a loads of people that have been helping, so thank you.
Oh, that's great that you have had support. I know it's a hard, I think it's when you're being groundbreaking, it really is a hard path to follow, and some people will really find it hard to keep track with you. So I think you just have to keep going and keep believing, and obviously lots of people who were on the call today have agreed with that too. So once again,
thank you, everyone.
Barnard Groves, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and share this for the first time with your group. I appreciate that.
It's been wonderful. Thanks, Paula, and see you all next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.